Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Franchise Your Success. And we have Dan Olsen in the house, and he's going to enlighten us with so many amazing golden nuggets. Thank you so much for coming today.
Oh, thank you for allowing me to be here in the house. And this is an amazing house. I mean, I wish you could all see this house that we're sitting in. It's not really a house, but it's a house. As we call it home, and it's a wonderful home and grateful to be here.
Oh, well, thank you so much. So, yeah, today we're going to talk about scaling a franchise. And there's several types of franchises. And the one that we're going to talk about today is the non-retail franchise. So, what's a non-retail franchise?
So yeah, we like to call those non-brick and mortar. So you're driving down the street there and you see all these different locations. You see the name on them, whether it's Chick-fil-A or Five Guys or whatever you see out there. You see these brick and mortar type franchise or retail type franchises because there is a location. So there's a little hidden gem there behind the world of franchising that a lot of people don't realize. There is a non-brick and mortar type franchise. So what we see a lot of those happening where we are individuals who are in the corporate life and they're tired of business they're doing and they want to get out on their own. So a lot of times they're lending their talents and experience to a franchise that they're learning how to do, and they're running it out of their home or small office building. So it doesn't take a lot of effort. And by some of those, I'll just give you a couple examples. One of them might be a consulting type franchise where you're consulting with business. We've talked about B2B before. So you're inside businesses helping them to save money on their expenses. Or you could be a consultant where you're helping businesses increase their sales, and you're going into businesses and working with them to increase their sales, because then you can get a real return for that business and have the satisfaction in knowing that you're helping that business to increase their sales, and you're getting paid to help them increase their sales. What a wonderful paycheck that is, to help them get a paycheck and you get a paycheck as a result of your efforts.
Everyone's happy.
But everybody's happy. But then there's things like painting franchises. So you might be going out and bidding jobs for the paint, and then you send your crews in, and they be working out of their homes or garages or wherever, and they can go and start painting and doing the job that you've just bid on. Painting franchises have been a good thing, and other home restoration type companies have been a good, solid, non-retail type business. The one I really like over the years that I've dealt with for almost 20 years now in the franchising world, and I'm doing it again with another company, is I love the idea of the imprinting business, where you are getting business accounts to print on t-shirts or hats or mugs or whatever it is. You're supplying those supplies to them to help promote their business and in their brand and their image. And it's just a fun business to be in with the clothing and things like that they do. But those are business to business, and many of those can be operated in this particular situation out of a small office or home to get started with, because you're dealing with business to business and having someone else fulfill the order, and you're just following through on that. But the thing here is, with business to business, or with these home-based or small office-based or non-brick and mortar retail type businesses, non-retail businesses, usually you're having to put some effort into those. So they're not necessarily semi-absentee owned. So, but that's okay, because you're already trading your time for money anyway, typically in a job. So this is the typical candidate for those. They're trading their time for money. So if they're making $100,000 a year as a mid-manager, or $150,000 a year, or whatever they're doing for their job, and you want to come and replace that income, in most of those franchises, if you work hard and you follow their systems, you're going to be able to replace it and hopefully even exceed whatever you were getting out of your job. So all you're doing is replacing the time you had with your job and building someone else's dream and business. Why not build your dream and your business and have more freedom with your own business? You're still working the same time probably and trading your time for money, but at least you're starting to do something that you want to do and control your life and have a little more freedom. Then what happens is I think we're going to talk a little bit about how we scale this, but in the meantime, you gotta be prepared to trade time for money, but hopefully it's more than you were generating per hour at your previous job. And we can't guarantee anything, but that's the idea.
And I feel like after hearing you about the non-retail type of franchise, it's more for those type of people that are like, well, I do want to become my own boss, yes, but I still want to work these many hours because I love working. So for all of those of you hard workers, if you are thinking about a franchise, but you're like, I don't like the semi absentee, I feel so lazy, I don't like that, well, this is your chance. Because the non retail would be amazing because you actually get to trade those hours for your own business, your own dreams. So, so it's amazing that these franchise exists, but like how can you like make it grow? Because it's not like a McDonald's that you get to purchase, oh yeah, I'm gonna purchase three more buildings. How do you make these grow?
So that's a wonderful question. That's what we're looking about all about is scaling our business. And to be able to scale a business, to make it bigger and make it grow, is you got to have a system in place. Well, the franchise already has a system in place. Sure, it's maybe not perfect, but it's pretty darn close to being able to provide the outcomes that we're all looking for when we buy a business. So when we buy that business and that franchise and we start out, we're probably going to be doing most of the work ourselves in the beginning. But then when you start looking at other businesses, those three businesses that I just described to you, once you start getting big enough, now you can usually start hiring associates
Oh,
or sales team members or consultants or whatever you want to call them in your non-brick and mortar business, or bidding people who will go out and actually do the bids on the construction site or whatever. So now you can start duplicating, replicating yourself, because there usually is a system within that franchise to be able to do that. And you've got sales team members or whatever they are out doing what you used to do. Now they're making money and you're making an override on whatever they did. So, and it's as simple as this. I had a friend when he was young, he was telling me this story. He was quite an entrepreneur and his family really promoted that. And so his mom got him set up and he was in the donut business. And so what he did is he would go out every Saturday morning. He'd buy several boxes of donuts and he'd repackage them in these sacks, like a half dozen donuts or whatever. And he'd go door to door,
oh.
knocking on his neighbor's door. Hey, would you like some donuts? Okay, great. Well, if there's 6 donuts in there, and whatever the price was, let's say he charged $1 a donut. I'm just throwing out a number. It was lower, much lower than that back then. But he charged $1 a donut and he'd buy them for maybe 50 cents a donut and he would make 50 cents per donut. So every time he sold a bag, he made $3. That was big money back then for him, because if he could go out in the morning and sell several dozens of donuts, until he started thinking, you know what, how can I replicate myself? How can I do this more and more? And so as he's talking to friends, and because he had the money, well, where are you getting all your money from? And it's like a 12, 13, 14-year-old kid. Where are you getting all this money? Well, I'm selling donuts. Well, how do I do that? Well, come on over and I'll show you how to do it. And I'll get the donuts and you go sell. So pretty soon he had 3 or 4 kids out knocking on those same doors every Saturday morning. And so he gave them, well, I don't know the number, but let's say he gave him $0.25 per donut and he kept $0.25 or whatever the number was. So he got all these people out there replicating themselves, and he got that override on every single donut bag that was sold. It's the same thing that can happen here to franchise with a non-brick and mortar, where you can scale it. You've got to be able to replicate yourself and get the business coming in. And so maybe and all the replicate, if you're getting half of what you normally paid out, you're getting that margin half what you would get if you were doing it. All you got to do is get 2 people out there doing the same thing you were doing, and you're making the same money, exact same money as if you were doing it, except you're not having to do the work now.
That's
You're just managing your associates that do it. So there's a way to scale that in most, I wouldn't say every non-brick and mortar type business franchise, but a lot of franchises you can do that.
That's awesome. So, one of the things that it just I thought about this question is like, well, so if you are replicating yourself, that makes it to a point that you can later on maybe become a semi-absentee at that point if you replicate it big enough. Um, but as in any franchise, there's always assets that you own. In a regular franchise, you would own the the location itself. I mean, the building, the land. But what do you own in this type of non-retail franchises?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's a lot of brick and mortar type franchises, retail locations where you're just leasing the location. But there are other times when you actually are able to purchase the location, and it's a building and you own the real estate. That makes your business worth a whole lot more, and it makes it a lot more financeable when you do that. But when you're in a non-brick and mortar, you don't have that asset of that real estate behind it. So, but what you do have an asset of is the income stream. So when you look at the accounts that have been set up, especially in B2B type businesses, and you got that repeat business that's coming in month after month, year after year, you can pretty much count on what you're going to get every month because of that ongoing piece of business and the support that you give those customers. Of course, it doesn't just come automatic, or it gradually fades out if you don't support it. But as you support that minimally, you have that return coming back. And so you have the opportunity to build that residual income stream, or I should better said, an ongoing retail or ongoing stream. Now that stream becomes very, very valuable if you decide you want to sell your business. I can think of a friend of mine, for example, that owned a dry cleaning business. Well, you think when you're dry cleaning, you're thinking, oh, I've got to have that plant, then I got to have all that equipment and all the employees and do all that. That wasn't what that was all about. He had a franchise where he was tied in with the plant and tied in with the place that was actually going to do the dry cleaning. All he was responsible for was getting the customers. And so what he did is he went out and he got 500 customers, but with door hangers and direct mail and maybe a little bit of online presence as well. But what he would do, he would take this bag to the customer's home. They filled it full of their dry cleaning and laundry. And then he would come a certain pickup day on the route. He'd come and pick it up, take it to the dry cleaner plant, and they would do all the work. And all he did was pick up and deliver. And you could actually do that in a car, but I'm sure he had a van or something to do that with the name on the side. But still, he ran it out of his home or small office. And the more accounts he got, the better it became. So as these accounts mount up, and I think he ended up with over 500 accounts. From what he told me, you do the multiplication on that. How much per month are those customers spending? And they could spend a lot of money because they want their clothes clean, and they love the service of picking up delivery. They didn't have to worry about that, and they had a system for doing that. So if you can imagine that stream of income coming in, and you take a multiple of that, maybe it's 3, maybe it's 4 times that multiple stream of that income, and you multiply that out, now you have an asset you can turn around and sell. So you can still have the asset to sell. And usually there's a higher return on it because you don't have any equipment that you've invested in with like a brick and mortar type location. You don't have the build out. You don't have a lot of other expenses that you've had to invest in to actually start the business. When you have the non-brick and mortar, you still have the same income stream. Let's say if you're dry cleaning, let's say that you had exactly the same income stream as that dry cleaning plant, but you invested $250,000 in all the equipment. Now you've got to turn around and sell that. So if your multiples that you sell it for is maybe double that, and you only generate that $250,000 by the time you want to sell your business, you've got to pay off all your equipment, of course, or they're assuming it, but your loan, but you've only made the $250,000. But if you have the same income stream coming in a non-brick and mortar, and you still do the same multiple because you've got the income stream, many times that's the case. So it might be a little slightly lower, but still you're putting more equity in your pocket, if that makes sense.
Right. Because like in that case, you wouldn't be paying, let's say, for example, for the land, if it was a brick and mortar. So
or the lease costs.
That's right.
Or the building, or the equipment.
So on average, how much would a non-retail franchise cost? Like, I mean, because I know that they have like an initial down payment that we have to, like an initial investment. How much different would it be from a regular?
It can be all over the board, but I just talked with a franchisor the other day, and I love his concept. His is like $15,000 franchise fee to get started. So you can get started for $15,000, add another 5, 6, 7, 8,000 to it for initial startup costs, getting the training and maybe buying some educational materials, a little bit of inventory, whatever that you needed to have. But for $28,000 to $25,000, you're in business as a franchise and non-brick and mortar, and you don't need a location for it. And I love this cool little franchise idea because there's a competitor that's dominated the world in this particular area, and I'd love to talk to you about it if we have.
Yes, by all means.
I'm not authorized to say the name just right now on here, but if someone wants to click on our program, we'll be happy to share some of these things with you. So as little as about $15,000 franchise fee, but what you see, a lot of the non-brick and mortar franchise fees are around that $40,000, $45,000 to be able to work out of your home. Because the reason why they're a little bit higher like that in some cases is because there's a lot of training that needs to be done, and that has to be paid for. There's a lot of materials and a lot of other expertise that the franchisor is certainly entitled to receiving proper and reasonable compensation for all the effort they've put in over the years to start their business up. So this allows them to get started still at a lower price, even if it's a $50,000, maybe sometimes as high as a $60,000 franchise fee for a non-brick and mortar, and you add another 5, 10, 15,000 in total startup costs, you're still in that 50, 60, $70,000 startup cost, everything with no debt, like you would with a brick and mortar. You might be spending or investing that same amount of money, but you've got a loan behind you too. But a lot of times you're spending less time in that brick and mortar than you would with your own non-brick and mortar type franchise.
Gotcha. So, talking about the non-brick and mortar, then, what are some of the characteristics that you would say a person needs to have if I wanted to own, for example, a non-brick and mortar?
Yeah, that's an important one. So if you've got someone that's really tech driven and they just want to sit in the back of the room and play with technology and do things like that and work through that system. Like for example, I'm thinking of the franchises where you're fixing cell phones. So if you're really into technology and you just wanted to fix cell phones and hire people that help you fix those cell phones, and you're just greeting customers as they come up the counter, hey, my cell phone's cracked. Can you fix this? Yeah, sure. Check them in, get it done, then go back and fix it. So if you're that kind of person that just likes to do that type of work with technology like that, and you're not as much of a people person, not as much as a salesperson, then that type of franchise may be better for you. But the one big characteristic that we look for in a non-brick and mortar franchise, whether you're out bidding paint jobs or whether you're out looking at providing imprinting services to businesses, or you're doing coaching and consulting, that type of thing, you got to have some peaceful skills. You got to be able to relate well with people, right? And talk to people and help them and support them. You got to provide the value of whatever your franchise has, because they have the system. You just got to interact. It's just you're the in-between person with your personality that's going to help grow that franchise. And for most people, you can't. And another important part of that is the sales side. And a lot of people think, I'm not a salesperson. Well, are you really? If you have children, you are a salesperson because you got to sell that child on why they shouldn't do certain things,
or why they should eat their veggies, for
why
example.
they should make their bed, or why they should, clean up the room before they go play or do their homework. What you got to sell them on it. You have to tell them the why to that. Or you're talking to your friends. Oh, I'm not a salesperson. Well, how many times you put out on social media, oh, this is the best restaurant, or this is the great movie, and here we are in front of this wonderful restaurant. Here's my meal today. I mean, that's the type of society we've become. We're selling almost every day. So if you can sell what you're doing on a daily basis, why not sell your service? Mm-hmm. But that's probably the key thing we look for is someone who has the ability to do that. Now, that doesn't mean they have to have experience. Oh, you have to be an expert salesperson before we'll even consider you into a franchise like that. No, that's not what we're saying. We're saying you got to have the willingness to do that. And usually it's more the people skills that come out, that consultative approach, the coaching approach, and we can teach the sales systems and the marketing systems all day long.
That's right. So in your opinion, what are some of the benefits of having a non-retail franchise?
Yeah, and that's where I started with the money mail or direct mail advertising. And we had the franchisees are out there talking to potential businesses to go into their mailer every month. And so the benefits of that is the extreme freedom that can come. So if you're out working with those businesses, you can set your own time and your own schedule. You can actually make more money if you want. You just work harder and you apply the system a little bit harder or more. If you know that you can get certain results by spending 20 hours a week and you're generating, a nice income that's satisfactory to you for that level. But if you want to double that income and you spend 35 or 40 hours a week now doing the exact same thing that you're doing, just multiplying your effort, you can double it. The beautiful thing about non-brick and mortar is, I don't want to call the sky's the limit, but you certainly have the ability to increase your income much quicker and higher than you would just with a location sitting there, because you're only going to have a certain number of people come to your store for example. Sure, you can increase it, but it's more limited versus a non-brick and mortar where you can increase your income, have more time, more freedom, but hopefully get to the point where you're replacing yourself so you can replicate yourself and have other individuals out there doing what you're doing so you can make money off of what they've done.
That's amazing. And thank you so much again. I feel like this truly gives us an insight on this non so popular type of franchise. Thank you so much again. And so, for all of you guys that are super hard workers and really are hands on deck kind of guy or girl,
Girl,
that's
especially
right.
girls. Yeah, we love them. In fact, you know what, Marjorie, in my experience, I see women franchisees do better than the man. So I'm
Oh,
going to lay down the challenge right now. Let's see who can do better. I mean, a person is a person, obviously, and we love each of those equally, but women can do phenomenally well in these franchises because I believe they have that ability to relate well with people, and people can relate well to them, and a lot of other reasons we could go into a whole nother session on that. But but we love to see women succeed, especially with this.
well, that sounds like a Women's Day special that we could do one day.
They are very special.
And we could do that for Women's Day, I guess. So, for all of you that are hearing us in the audience, if you are more into like working really, really hard for what your goals are, and you don't feel like just sitting down and letting other people work, well, take a look at the non-retail franchise because it could be the way for you to go. Thank you so much again, Dan, for today, and thank
Thank
you to
you.
our audience for listening to us today. Thank you.
Thank you.